Kale's boots sank into the jagged red sand as he stumbled forward, wind slashing at his face with sharp, electric bites. The storm had come faster than any meteorological report could have predicted. Clouds of dark violet and crimson twisted in the sky, glowing with erratic bursts of plasma. The planet Virelia 7 had seemed peaceful yesterday, a barren wasteland with a quiet beauty. Today it was a furious, unrelenting enemy. Kale pulled his hood tighter and scanned the horizon. Somewhere in the distance, a faint metallic gleam caught his eye. Instinct told him to move toward it. Each step felt heavier as the storm's winds buffeted him, carrying streaks of sand that stung his skin. Kale's chest burned from exertion, and his lungs struggled against the charged air, but he refused to stop. Survival demanded movement. The gleam became clearer as he approached, the outline of a starship, half buried in dunes like a relic from a forgotten war. Its surface shimmered faintly, untouched by the violent storm around it. He had no time to analyze how it had survived. He just needed shelter. He reached the hull and slid his fingers over the smooth metal, marveling at its alien design. It was sleek, with curves that seemed almost organic. There were no sharp edges, only flowing lines that hinted at a technology far beyond human understanding. The door panel was embedded with symbols that flickered faintly as he pressed his hand against them. With a hiss, the doors slid open, revealing a dimly lit corridor. Relief washed over him. Inside, the air was cool and breathable, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. He stepped cautiously, his eyes adjusting to the faint luminescence of the walls. The ship hummed softly, almost as if it were alive. Strange glyphs pulsed gently in rhythm with the hum, casting eerie reflections on the floor. Kale's curiosity mixed with caution. He had no idea who, or what, might be aboard, but any shelter was better than facing the storm outside. He wandered through the corridors, noting the ship's intricate design. The walls seemed to shift slightly when he wasn't looking directly at them, giving the place an almost fluid appearance. Panels of light blinked in sequence, revealing passageways that seemed to extend farther than the ship's exterior suggested. Kale's heart raced, partly from exhaustion, partly from awe. This vessel was unlike anything humanity had built. There was an intelligence behind it, a purpose. Suddenly, a faint whisper echoed through the halls. Kale froze, straining his ears. It wasn't mechanical. The sound had a rhythm, a softness, almost like someone speaking in a language he couldn't understand. His mind raced. He had entered the ship expecting empty corridors, perhaps automated systems, but not this. Another whisper followed, slightly louder, accompanied by a glimmer of movement down the hallway. He stepped back, instinct warning him to flee, but curiosity anchored him in place. From the shadows emerged 4 figures. At first, he thought they were illusions created by the flickering lights, but as they stepped into view, he realized they were real. They were humanoid, but their features were unlike anything Kale had ever seen. Their skin glowed faintly with bioluminescent patterns, shifting like liquid light. Their eyes were large and silver, reflecting the faint illumination of the corridors, giving them an ethereal presence. Their movements were fluid and deliberate, as if they were both cautious and graceful at the same time. Kale's pulse quickened. I'm not here to harm you," he said cautiously, raising his hands. His voice sounded harsh against the hum of the ship, but the figures did not recoil. Instead, they observed him silently, tilting their heads slightly, their eyes filled with an intelligence that made him feel small and unprepared. One of them stepped forward. The air around her shimmered subtly, and a series of clicks and hums resonated from her, soft yet deliberate. Kale's comm device translated the sounds into words. "You are human," it said, smooth and melodic. "Why are you here?" Kale swallowed, relief mingled with surprise. I got caught in the storm. I needed shelter, that's all." He tried to keep his voice steady, though every instinct screamed caution. The figure paused, studying him as though weighing his words. Then she gestured toward the central corridor. "You may stay. But you must follow the rules of this place. Harm will not be tolerated." Kale nodded quickly, stepping forward. The storm outside battered the ship's hull, causing low vibrations to ripple through the metal floors, yet inside there was calm. For the first time since he had landed on this planet, he felt a glimmer of hope. He followed the figures deeper into the vessel. The walls glowed more brightly here, illuminating chambers filled with objects and devices that seemed simultaneously alien and familiar. Some resembled tools, others like instruments of observation. As Kale moved through the corridors, he noticed the ship was surprisingly large. It seemed to extend in all directions, more like a living organism than a mechanical vehicle. The bioluminescent patterns on the walls pulsed slightly faster when he approached, almost like the ship was aware of his presence. He wondered if it was sentient. The thought was terrifying and exciting all at once. The four alien women led him into a spacious chamber. The ceiling arched high above, lined with glowing conduits. Strange panels projected holographic images of distant stars and planets, rotating slowly in midair. Kale's eyes widened. This ship wasn't just a shelter. It was a repository of knowledge, a vessel that carried the legacy of a civilization he had never encountered. One of the women approached a console and touched a panel, causing a soft hum to resonate through the chamber. Images shifted, showing maps of storms like the one outside, highlighting patterns that Kale had never seen in meteorology reports. The storm wasn't natural, it had a pattern and intelligence, and now he was trapped in the center of it. Kale realized that his human survival instincts had led him to a place far beyond his comprehension. He had expected safety, but he had found responsibility. The storm outside was not the only threat. Knowledge, power, and intelligence. The ship and its guardians possessed all three, and he, a single human, was now a participant in something far greater than himself. He turned to the alien women who watched him silently, their expressions unreadable. Despite their beauty and grace, there was an undeniable aura of authority and caution. Kale bowed his head slightly, acknowledging their presence and the rules of this place. They had allowed him refuge, but nothing more. Hours passed, and Kale explored more of the ship, discovering living quarters, observation decks, and laboratories filled with alien technology. Every object sparked his curiosity, yet the whispers and hums of the ship reminded him that he was not in control. He had entered this place seeking shelter, but he was learning quickly that survival required understanding, adaptation, and respect. By the time he returned to the chamber, the storm outside had intensified. Lightning arcs danced along the horizon, and thunder shook the ship's hull. Kale watched from a viewport, his mind racing. He had survived many storms on different worlds, but this was different. This was alive, unpredictable, and drawn toward life itself. The alien women gathered near him, watching silently. One extended a hand, and the ship responded, projecting a faint energy shield over the chamber. Kale felt a rush of warmth and safety. He realized that these beings, their technology, and perhaps even the ship itself were the key to surviving what was coming. That night, Kale lay on a simple resting platform, staring at the softly glowing walls. The storm outside raged on, a living tempest of light and energy. He thought about humanity's place in the universe, how fragile yet resilient it was. Here, on this distant world among beings unlike himself, he had found a fragile sanctuary. And perhaps in the days to come, he would discover that survival was more than instinct. It was alliance, courage, and the willingness to face the unknown. The whispers in the corridors grew quieter as he drifted into a fitful sleep. The storm's roar remained, but inside the ship there was calm. Kale's journey had begun, not just to escape the storm, but to understand the mysteries of the Starship, the alien women, and perhaps himself. Tomorrow would bring questions he was not yet ready to answer, but for now he had survived. And in survival there was hope. Kale woke to a soft hum vibrating through the ship. The glow of the bioluminescent walls bathed the chamber in a gentle light, revealing the alien women moving gracefully around the room. They were preparing the ship, touching panels and consoles with careful precision, their fingers leaving faint trails of light that faded quickly. Kale rubbed his eyes, realizing that the storm outside had not lessened. It still raged with relentless fury, but inside the ship the world felt calm, organized, alive. He rose from the resting platform and stepped cautiously toward them. One of the women, the same who had first spoken to him, noticed his movement. She tilted her head, and Kale felt a soft vibration in the floor beneath his feet. A panel in front of her lit up, translating her thoughts into words he could understand. "You are awake. Good. You must learn the rules of this place. The storm outside is not simple. It is sentient, drawn to life. It will sense your presence if you are careless." Kale nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. He had assumed the storm was only a natural disaster, a force of nature. But now, with the ship alive around him and these women moving with uncanny synchronization, he realized it was something else entirely. Something that observed, reacted, and hunted. Why does it follow humans? He asked, his voice quiet. The woman's silver eyes flickered with something like sorrow. It seeks vitality, energy, intelligence. Your species is unique. It has never encountered you in such proximity before. You are dangerous to it, but also vulnerable. That is why you are here. She gestured for him to follow, and Cale complied, trying to keep his mind calm despite the storm's relentless roar beyond the hull. They led him through a long corridor lined with panels that displayed vast star systems and streams of energy flowing between them. Cale stopped at one panel that pulsed with blue light. "This shows the storm," one of the women explained. "It is not natural. It moves with purpose. It tests all life it finds. Many civilizations have fallen to it." Her voice held no judgment, only the weight of fact. Cale felt a chill run down his spine. "Many civilizations," he whispered. He thought of humanity, so far from any threat like this. Yet here he was, alone except for beings he barely understood, facing something capable of destroying everything. His mind raced. Was he ready for this? Could a human survive a force that had ended entire civilizations? The women guided him further into a large circular chamber at the ship's core. The ceiling arched high above them, and in the center, a holographic sphere floated, rotating slowly. Inside the sphere, a storm swirled, contained by energy fields that glimmered and shifted. Cale could see lightning twisting within it, arcs of pure energy dancing with intent as if alive. His breath caught. He had never seen anything like it. The storm was beautiful and terrifying all at once, a living maelstrom. "This is the heart of the storm," the lead woman explained. "It is restrained here only by the ship's energy matrix. If it escapes, nothing survives." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. Cale stared, imagining the destruction that would follow if the storm broke free. The realization struck him fully. The storm outside wasn't just dangerous. It was a predator, and the ship was both shield and prison. Cale's curiosity overcame fear. How does the ship stop it?" he asked. "What can I do to help?" His voice carried a mix of wonder and determination. The alien women looked at each other and then at him, their expressions unreadable yet attentive. "You can help," the lead said, "but you must learn first. This ship is alive. It responds to thought, intent, and understanding. You must synchronize with it, or your presence will attract the storm's attention. Many humans would fail because they cannot quiet their minds enough to become one with it." Cale swallowed hard but nodded. He had faced dangerous storms before, hostile planets, collapsing ruins. Humans were resourceful, adaptable. He could learn. He had too. The woman extended her hand, and a faint light connected her fingers to his. A subtle warmth spread through him, a sensation unlike any he had felt before. The ship responded, pulsing in rhythm with their movements, and a soft voice, melodic yet alien, spoke inside his mind. "You are here. Learn to move as we move. Observe, adapt, survive." Hours passed as Cale trained under the guidance of the women. They showed him the ship's systems, panels that projected environments, energy conduits that could be rerouted, shields that could expand outward or contract inward, all responding to thought and emotion. At first, Cale struggled. His mind was too chaotic, filled with fear and doubt. But the women were patient. They mirrored his attempts, showing him through repetition and synchronization how to quiet his mind, how to focus his will through the ship's mechanisms. During this training, Cale observed them more closely. Each woman had distinct features, patterns across her skin that glowed differently, reflecting personality and skill. One moved with precise, mechanical grace, calibrating the energy flows of the ship. Another monitored the holographic storms, predicting their shifts with uncanny accuracy. The others coordinated navigation and defensive measures. Together, they were a team, a perfect synchronization of mind and technology. Cale realized that humans could learn this too, if only they combined intellect with discipline. By evening, Cale felt some mastery over a small panel. His thoughts directed a minor shield fluctuation in one of the corridors, and it responded, shimmering briefly with energy. The women observed, their expressions faintly approving. It was the first success he had felt, a spark of confidence igniting within him. Perhaps he could survive this storm, and perhaps even contribute meaningfully to the ship's defense. The storm outside had not abated. Lightning arced across the sky, striking distant rock formations with explosive energy. The planet itself seemed to tremble. Cale glanced at the viewport, watching the fury. Fear tried to creep in, but he pushed it back. His fear would only make the storm stronger, he realized. Calm, focused thought, guided by understanding and discipline, could protect him. As night, or what passed for night on Violia 7, fell, the ship's lights dimmed slightly, allowing Cale to see the stars above the storm. They were alien constellations, distant galaxies that humans had never mapped. Yet even here he felt a connection to humanity, a thread of resilience. Humans were fragile, yes, but adaptable, observant, tenacious. The alien women and the ship had already recognized something in him worth teaching. That recognition became a quiet source of determination. Suddenly, the ship's hum shifted, a low, resonant vibration that ran through the floor. Cale stopped and looked toward the lead woman. Her eyes widened slightly. The holographic storm sphere pulsed violently. "It senses you more strongly now," she said. "Your presence is affecting it. Focus, sync, do not panic." Her voice was steady, but the tension was palpable. Cale realized that the storm was reacting to him, just as she had said. Every thought, every emotion he felt could draw its attention. He closed his eyes, breathing deeply. Memories of survival, camping on hostile planets, escaping collapsing structures, navigating treacherous terrain, flooded his mind. He centered himself, letting instinct and experience merge with the ship's guidance. Slowly, he reached out with his mind, as the women had shown him, feeling the flow of energy beneath the floor, through the walls, around the holographic storm. It was alien, unfamiliar, yet it responded. A faint pulse of energy radiated outward from the chamber, rippling through the ship. The storm sphere calmed slightly, the violent arcs of energy settling into steady, contained patterns. Cale opened his eyes, surprised at what he had achieved. One of the women stepped forward, a soft hum translating into praise. "You have begun to synchronize. This is the first step. Continue. Your human adaptability complements our knowledge. Together we can withstand this storm." Cale felt a surge of pride and relief. For the first time since landing on Violia 7, he believed survival was possible, not just for himself, but for the ship, the alien women, and perhaps even the planet. The storm outside still raged, but inside a quiet victory had been won. They spent the night in concentrated preparation. Cale learned to navigate minor systems, to anticipate energy shifts, and to remain calm under pressure. The alien women guided him without condescension, demonstrating patience and wisdom. He realized that they were not only protectors of the ship but teachers, guardians of knowledge that humans had never encountered. And he, a single human, was becoming part of their system, a small but vital component in the defense against the storm. As the first faint light of Violia 7's sun, or what passed for it, filtered through the viewport, Cale felt a profound sense of purpose. He had entered the ship as a fugitive from the storm, seeking only shelter. Now he was more than that. He was a student, an ally, a participant in something far greater than himself. The storm outside was not yet defeated, but for the first time, Cale felt capable, prepared, and aligned with the forces that could protect him. He looked at the alien women, each moving with precise grace, and understood that this partnership was fragile yet powerful. Humans, fragile as they might be, could survive through ingenuity, focus, and collaboration. That realization became a quiet flame of hope. The storm would test them, but Cale knew one thing for certain: he was no longer running from danger. He was learning to meet it head-on. And the storm, no matter how sentient or furious, would have to reckon with him. Cale awoke to the gentle hum of the ship, the alien women already in motion around the chamber. Their bioluminescent patterns pulsed softly, synchronized with the ship's energy flows. It was a dance of life and technology, subtle yet mesmerizing. Cale stretched, shaking off the lingering exhaustion from yesterday's intense lessons. He could feel the storm outside pressing against the hull, a constant reminder of why he had come here and why he could not fail. The lead woman approached, her eyes reflecting silver light as she observed him. A soft vibration emanated through the floor, translated into his mind as words by the ship. "Today you will learn more. Today you will participate fully." "You are ready?" Cale felt a surge of determination. Yesterday had been preparation, today would be action. They guided him to a control room that overlooked the storm through a massive viewport. Lightning arced across the sky, and Kale felt the raw energy of the plasma storms even from inside the protective hull. It was beautiful, terrifying, and alive. The holographic storm sphere floated before them, its energy patterns shifting violently. He realized the storm was not only intelligent, it was learning, adapting to every action within the ship. "You must move faster than it can anticipate," the lead woman said, her voice calm but firm. "It responds to thought, to fear, to hesitation. You must become one with the ship." She gestured to a panel displaying flowing energy conduits, connecting every part of the vessel. Kale stepped forward, placing his hands lightly on the surface. The energy pulsed under his touch, responding subtly to his thoughts. The sensation was alien, yet he felt instinctively how to direct it. The storm surged violently, arcs of plasma lashing toward the planet's surface. The ship vibrated, and Kale felt a low hum resonate in his chest. "It is testing us," the woman said. "It wants to see if we are ready. If we fail, the consequences will extend beyond this planet." Kale swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her words. He had never considered that a storm could be more than weather, that it could judge, measure, and punish. Yet here he was, facing such a force, and he could not allow fear to dominate him. He began working alongside the women, directing energy flows, reinforcing shields, and stabilizing the ship's systems. Each action required focus, coordination, and trust in the alien technology. Kale felt a thrill of satisfaction as minor fluctuations in the storm's energy were neutralized. The ship responded to his thought as if acknowledging his effort, pulsing gently under his hands. He was learning not just to survive, but to contribute. Hours passed in intense concentration. Kale's movements became smoother, more confident. He began to anticipate the storm's shifts before they occurred, predicting where energy arcs would strike and rerouting power to counter them. The alien women observed him closely, occasionally adjusting his approach or demonstrating subtle techniques. Kale realized that their intelligence was vast, yet they welcomed his human perspective. Where they calculated, he improvised. Where he faltered, they guided. Together, they became a synchronized system, each action reinforcing the other. As the storm intensified outside, the ship's energy sphere began to glow more brightly. Kale noticed patterns emerging within the storm, arcs of lightning forming repetitive shapes, pulses of energy converging on specific points. The alien women leaned over the panels, murmuring in their melodic clicks which the ship translated into words. "The storm is concentrating. It seeks a vulnerability. It has sensed you more clearly." Kale felt a chill, realizing that despite his growing mastery, the storm was always one step ahead, learning from every motion, every thought. One of the women extended her hand, and Kale felt a connection, a subtle transfer of knowledge. Images and sensations flooded his mind, vortices of energy, pathways of flow, points of weakness in the storm. The sensation was intense, almost overwhelming, but he adapted quickly. He understood now that the storm was not mindless. It was a predator, analyzing, calculating, reacting. His role was not to dominate it, but to anticipate and guide the ship in harmony with its movements. "Good," the lead woman said, her voice a soft resonance in his mind. "You are beginning to understand, but understanding is not enough. You must act. The storm will challenge you now." Suddenly, the ship shuddered violently. Lightning struck the hull, and the energy sphere flared with blinding intensity. Panels flickered, alarms hummed, and Kale felt his heart race. The storm had adapted, focusing its power on the ship itself. "Now," the woman said, "direct the energy, stabilize the conduits, protect the vessel." Kale's hands moved instinctively, rerouting power through the ship's circuits, reinforcing shields, and anticipating the storm's arcs. Sparks of energy danced along the floor as the ship responded to his will. The alien women worked beside him, a seamless team, their movements synchronized with his own. Together, they created a protective network that absorbed the storm's attacks. The storm continued its assault, relentless and intelligent. Kale realized that this was more than survival. It was a battle of wits, perception, and instinct. He drew on every lesson he had learned, combining human adaptability with the alien technology and guidance. Slowly, the storm's energy sphere stabilized, its violent arcs reducing to controlled pulses. Kale allowed himself a brief moment of triumph, though he knew the challenge was far from over. The lead woman placed a hand on his shoulder, and Kale felt a wave of calm energy flow through him. "You are improving. But the storm will test more than your skills. It will probe your understanding, your judgment, and your courage. Are you ready for that? Cale met her gaze, determination burning in his chest. I am, he said simply. The next hours passed in a tense rhythm of action and observation. Cale and the women coordinated defensive strategies, monitored energy flows, and predicted the storm's movements. Each minor victory strengthened their bond, a silent acknowledgement that human ingenuity and alien experience could combine to counter even a sentient storm. Cale felt a profound sense of purpose. He was no longer a fugitive seeking shelter. He was part of a system, an essential component in the defense of the ship and perhaps the planet itself. During a brief lull in the storm, Cale explored the chamber further. He noticed panels projecting star systems, planets, and nebulae. Some displayed energy signatures similar to the storm, indicating that such phenomena were not unique to Violia 7. The realization struck him. This was not just a local danger. The storm was a cosmic threat, and the knowledge contained in this ship was a key to survival. He glanced at the alien women, who observed him with expressions that seemed to convey both patience and approval. One of them approached and extended her hand. A faint pulse connected them, transmitting images of past encounters with storms like this one. Cale saw entire worlds devastated, civilizations erased, and yet he also saw victories achieved through coordination, strategy, and understanding. The knowledge was overwhelming, but he absorbed it with focus. Every vision reinforced a simple truth. Survival required intelligence, courage, and unity. The storm flared again, brighter and more violent than before. Cale felt the ship shudder under the assault, but he no longer panicked. His mind moved with clarity, directing energy flows, reinforcing shields, and predicting the storm's arcs. The alien women mirrored his actions, and together they formed a synchronized web of control and protection. Sparks of energy illuminated the chamber as the storm's force collided with the ship's defenses. For the first time, Cale realized that human intuition, improvisation, and adaptability could complement the alien women's precision and knowledge. Where they calculated, he improvised. Where he hesitated, they guided. The combination created a dynamic synergy, allowing them to withstand the storm's intelligent attacks. Cale felt a surge of pride. He was contributing, not just surviving. As the storm began to wane slightly, the holographic sphere displayed a pattern of retreat. The energy pulses slowed, arcs of lightning reduced, and the ship stabilized. Cale exhaled, his body trembling with exhaustion and exhilaration. The alien women gathered around him, their expressions unreadable yet softening in subtle approval. "You have done well," the lead woman said, her voice a soothing resonance in his mind. "You have begun to understand the storm, the ship, and yourself. But this is only the beginning. The storm will return. It always returns. And when it does, you must be ready, not just to survive, but to protect, to act, to lead." Cale nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He had entered the ship seeking only refuge from the storm, but he had found something greater: purpose, knowledge, and the realization that survival was a combination of courage, intelligence, and unity. He understood now that humanity's strength was not in isolation, but in connection, learning from others, adapting to circumstances, and rising to meet challenges beyond comprehension. The first light of Violia 7's sun filtered through the viewport, casting pale rays across the chamber. The storm outside still raged, but Cale felt a profound sense of readiness. He was no longer a passive survivor. He was part of a system, a crucial element in the battle against a force far greater than anything humanity had faced. The storm would challenge them again, but Cale knew that together, with intelligence, courage, and trust, they could endure. For the first time since landing on the planet, he allowed himself a small smile. The journey was far from over, the challenges immense, and the storm relentless. But Cale had learned to synchronize his human instincts with alien wisdom. He had discovered the power of adaptation, focus, and unity. And in that discovery, he had found hope, a hope that would sustain him through whatever trials the storm or the universe might place before him. Cale looked at the alien women, each a master of their craft, and realized that this was more than survival. It was a partnership, a shared purpose, and a lesson in the boundless potential of cooperation. The storm outside might test them, but together they were stronger than any force that could rise against them. And as the ship hummed around him, a living entity in perfect harmony with its guardians, Kale felt ready. Ready not only to face the storm, but to rise beyond it. Kale stood at the central command platform, the alien women moving fluidly around him. Outside, the storm's energy swirled like a living beast, dark clouds twisted with violent arcs of plasma, lightning striking the barren surface of Violia 7 with relentless fury. Every pulse of the storm sent shivers through the ship's hull, yet inside, there was a calm that had been forged over the past days, discipline, understanding, and teamwork. Kale felt that calm settle into him, a foundation of confidence. Today he realized they would face the storm fully. The lead woman approached him, her bioluminescent patterns glowing softly. The storm has sensed your presence for too long. It has adapted to your efforts. You must act decisively now, not reactively. Direct the ship with focus, trust in yourself and in us. Kale nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He had been learning, observing, synchronizing, but this was no longer practice. This was action. Life and survival depended on it. He glanced at the holographic storm sphere hovering above the console. Within it, the storm's energy writhed with purpose, arcs of plasma forming patterns that suggested thought and strategy. Kale's pulse quickened, but he forced himself to breathe deeply, letting instinct and focus replace panic. The alien women moved in perfect rhythm around him, their gestures guiding him, teaching him, merging their knowledge with his own understanding. The first strike came without warning. A concentrated bolt of plasma hit the ship's outer hull, sending vibrations through the floor. Sparks flared along the energy conduits, and Kale's hands shot to the controls, rerouting power to reinforce the shields. He felt the ship respond instantly, the hum resonating in his chest as the protective barriers absorbed the impact. The alien women mirrored his actions, their movements precise, creating a synchronized defense that was as much art as it was strategy. This is more than survival, Kale thought. It's coordination, trust, and unity. The storm pulsed again, energy arcs targeting multiple points on the ship simultaneously. Kale anticipated the strikes, directing energy flows to absorb the attacks. One of the women extended her hand, her fingers brushing a panel, and he felt a subtle wave of information flood his mind. The ship itself was teaching him, guiding him, responding to his thought patterns. Together they became a single entity, a human mind, alien experience, and ship intelligence working as one. For a moment, Kale felt exhilaration rather than fear. He was contributing, not just surviving. He could see the patterns in the storm, the way it tested defenses, sought vulnerabilities, and adapted to their responses. And he, for the first time, could anticipate its movements. His human intuition complemented the precise calculations of the women and the ship systems. The synergy was powerful, almost unstoppable, but the storm was relentless. Lightning arcs struck closer, shaking the ship violently. Kale felt the energy pulse through his arms as he redirected power to compensate. Sparks of plasma danced along the floor, yet the alien women remained calm, their confidence steady, guiding him through every fluctuation. The ship's hum grew louder, resonating with the storm as if it were challenging the tempest to a duel of power and will. Kale realized then that this was no ordinary storm. It was a test, a challenge designed to probe intelligence, courage, and adaptability. Humanity's resilience, he understood, was precisely what the storm sought. The alien women had survived because they had learned this truth centuries ago. And now, he was part of their effort, a human element in a battle that transcended species. Minutes stretched into hours. Kale's muscles ached from constant action, but he did not falter. Each strike of the storm was met with precise defense, each surge of energy absorbed and redirected. He began to notice the storm's patterns, subtle hesitations, repeated arcs, tiny fluctuations. He predicted its movements, guiding the ship's energy flows with confidence. The alien women responded with approval, reinforcing their combined efforts. "You are learning fast," the lead woman said, her voice calm but resonant. "Your human adaptability is valuable. Never forget it." Kale allowed himself a brief smile. He had doubted his ability to contribute, to survive alongside these beings and their technology, but now he realized that he was more than a survivor. He was a participant, a strategist, a crucial element in the defense. The storm intensified again, more focused, more intelligent. It lashed at the ship with precision, testing every shield, every conduit, every response. Kale felt a moment of fear, the first real crack in his confidence. But he remembered the lessons: focus, adaptation, and unity. He synchronized his breathing with the ship's hum, allowed his instincts to guide him, and acted decisively. Energy surged from his hands through the controls, reinforcing shields, stabilizing conduits, and predicting the storm's next strike. It worked. The storm's attack slowed, arcs of lightning retreating from their points of impact. Kale felt a rush of triumph, but he knew the battle was not yet won. The storm was intelligent; it would not give up easily. He glanced at the alien women, who nodded subtly, signaling him to continue to maintain focus, to stay united. Hours passed in this tense rhythm. Strike and counterstrike, surge and absorption, attack and defense. Kale and the women moved as one, a blend of human intuition, alien precision, and ship intelligence. He began to see deeper patterns within the storm, the way it reacted to emotional fluctuations, the way it tested not just physical defenses but mental clarity. The realization struck him: fear would strengthen the storm, calm would weaken it. His mind became a weapon, as vital as the ship's shields and the alien women's expertise. Finally, Kale noticed a subtle change. The storm's arcs began to diverge, energy pulses spreading in uneven patterns. It hesitated, as though unsure of its next move. The lead woman's voice echoed in his mind: "Now, strike decisively. Do not hold back. Guide the storm." Kale's heart raced. This was the moment. He extended his hands toward the central console, letting his focus flow into the ship, into the shields, into the energy conduits. He visualized the storm, predicting its arcs, guiding its energy into containment. The ship responded instantly. A radiant pulse of energy surged outward, forming a barrier around the storm. Lightning struck the barrier, arcs clashing against it with raw power, but the energy held firm. Kale felt the strain in every fiber of his being, but he did not falter. The alien women reinforced the pulse with precise gestures, their energy flowing seamlessly into his efforts. The storm howled, a sound that reverberated through the hull, but slowly, gradually, its fury was contained. The lightning arcs subsided, the dark clouds began to disperse, and the energy sphere stabilized. Kale let out a long breath, exhausted but exhilarated. He had faced the storm, learned its patterns, and helped guide the ship to victory. The alien women approached, expressions softening with approval. "You have done well," the lead woman said. "You have synchronized with the ship, understood the storm, and acted decisively. You are no longer a stranger here. You are part of this defense, part of this system." Kale felt a swell of pride and relief. He had not just survived, he had contributed, grown, and proven his worth. As the storm finally began to dissipate, Kale stepped to the viewport. The sky above Violia 7 was clearing, streaked with pale light from the distant sun. The barren landscape below seemed almost peaceful, untouched by the destruction that had raged hours before. For the first time, he allowed himself to believe that survival was possible, not just for himself, but for anyone who understood courage, unity, and adaptability. The lead woman placed a hand gently on his shoulder. A faint pulse of energy connected them, transmitting calm and reassurance. Kale felt gratitude, not only for the shelter and guidance she had provided, but for the lessons in resilience, intelligence, and trust. Humanity's strength, he realized, was not just in physical endurance or instinct, but in the ability to learn, adapt, and unite with forces beyond comprehension. "Tomorrow," the woman said softly, "the storm may return or another may come, but you are ready. You have learned what it means to face the unknown, to act decisively, and to survive. Remember this: unity is strength, understanding is power, and courage can guide even the most fragile among us to triumph." Kale nodded, feeling the weight and truth of her words. He had come to Violia 7 seeking shelter from a storm, but he had found something far greater: knowledge, partnership, and the realization that survival was only the beginning. There was purpose beyond fear, power beyond isolation, and hope beyond despair. As night fell on Violia 7, the storm fully dissipated, leaving a quiet calm across the barren world. Kale stood with the alien women, gazing at the distant stars. He thought of humanity, fragile yet resilient, and realized that the same qualities that allowed him to survive here could allow humans to face challenges across the galaxy. Adaptation, courage, intelligence, and unity were weapons far greater than any physical shield. The ship hummed around him, alive and aware, its systems glowing softly with energy. Kale felt connected to it, to the alien women, and to something greater than himself. He had learned to trust, to act decisively, and to face the unknown with clarity and courage. The storm had tested them, challenged them, but they had endured, stronger together than they could have been apart. Cale allowed himself a small, confident smile. The storm was gone, but the lessons remained. He would continue to learn, to grow, to adapt. Humanity's potential, he realized, was boundless, especially when combined with allies who shared knowledge, trust, and purpose. The universe was vast, dangerous, and full of unknowns. But Cale now knew that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the most relentless storms. And with that knowledge, he was ready for whatever came next.